live.
Hey everybody up there in Instagram, I'm Wes Hagen. Welcome to Day Drinking. This is my wife, Chanda Hagen, as well as little Peregrine. Can I have a kiss on the nose, Peregrine? Thank you, that's very nice. Peregrine is an Italian Greyhound, and we're looking forward to having a great time tonight. I am going to check in on Zoom, make sure the Zoom is running, see what we've got. And looks like Jake is here. We've got a couple folks coming in. That is great. What I'm gonna try to do is to keep my eye on a number of different screens, kind of going back to the way I used to do this, to make sure that we see everything that is fit to be done. And it should be broadcasting right here. And I will continue to look. I don't think I don't see it at the top. We're here, we're on a little bit early to make sure that we get all this stuff working right. It doesn't go to the top for some reason. We'll see events, leads, settings, page. Let's see. That is definitely where it's supposed to be.
Maybe it's just not showing up on your
notifications. Dumbest answers ever. Hopefully we're not in that.
Okay. Jose.
Oh, wait.
That's not it.
That is definitely not it. That's Family Feud. All right. So shows, live, music, videos, live. Maybe it would be right there. Let's see. Oh, there it is. I found it, honey.
Yay.
Okay.
Maybe it's just not showing up on your
notifications. Okay, now I have turned off that, and it looks like we got Jim. Good morning to you, Jim. And we got Tommy. Hey, buddy, we're drinking some D-Wade Rosé. Even though I'm a Laker fan, Dwayne Wade is a good dude, and I hope he's doing well as well. And we've got Don Ward in the house. And Eddie Gray, so good to have you here, my man. And everybody else, Porter Square Wine. Thank you so much for coming in on the old Instagram. Hopefully the event that we did for you guys in Cambridge, Massachusetts went well. It's about the closest I'm ever going to get to Harvard. So thank you, Porter Square. We do appreciate everything. And of course, tonight we are joined by my beautiful wife, Chanda, and little Peregrine.
And Kestrel.
And Kestrel is over.
That way.
Yeah, it's backwards. So
backwards.
We're a little confused. So
and Jim asked if it was a new studio, and technically it's the same room, but normally he films that way.
Correct.
But we're facing this way now. So this is just a different view of the same room.
Yeah, this is basically my office looking towards the kitchen and our backyard in Orchid, California. If you don't know where Orchid is, we are about halfway between Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo.
68 degrees today, high of 70.
It was a high of 70 degrees today. So we were basically in a very, very cool place all day. I was in a sweater most of the day, but the fog hardly broke. Fog probably broke around 2:30, 3 o'clock.
Yeah,
it was late.
Cool.
It was late. So I heard big news yesterday. Napa Valley started sparkling harvest. So we are officially in California. Well, I'm sure they were probably picking grapes, in July, someplace probably in the San Joaquin. But as far as super fine wine production, Napa's rocking and rolling. Napa is picking Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, and Pinot Meunier for sparkling wine. So here we are. Kind of makes me a little freaked out. I always hear,
oh, it's way warmer up there.
Yeah, I know. I always hear, oh boy, here we go, harvest started, and then I think, wow. Okay. All right. Here we go. So I would say Pinot Blanc is probably 3 weeks out, and with any luck, and it's kind of going on. So what we're doing today, ladies and gentlemen, and Kristen Labonte is in.
What cut is where you come over the hill from Lompoc to free? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's
like a back way from Lompoc, and you can zip through Orcutt onto the 101. Yeah, we used to do that when we lived in Lompoc.
Yes.
Now we live here.
It's absolutely true. And Kristen Labonte, my favorite librarian in the universe, is on. She's also working on an AVA project with with UC Santa Barbara and the Cal State system. So that's fun. They're going to be gathering a lot of information on the AVAs that have been written in Santa Barbara County, and actually keeping sort of all of the materials together for the future. I mean, how rad would it have been if you could go back to the 13th and 14th centuries and see some of the writings and some of the original vineyard maps in Burgundy, and seeing sort of the nascent Burgundian wine firmament defined in such a way. So I love people who are careful to save things for future generations. As Carl Sagan called it, extra genetic information, things that we take out of our brain and put into
That's where all my information is kept, somewhere else.
Extra genetic information. And speaking of beautiful extra genetic, new Anchor Steam cans. I'm so, as a Californian and someone who loves craft beer, I don't think it can be overstated, the power of Anchor Steam, one of the oldest small production beers, you could argue. I mean, Sam Adams loves to say they invented craft beer. I'm just going to say this beer was around a lot longer than that. Well, excuse us.
He always does that.
He wants to make sure he's listened to, but that's our little long-legged elven ferret. That is, of course, Mr. Peregrine. He's an Italian greyhound and an amazing little hound. We've got, yes, so we are in Orchid, which I was saying halfway between San Luis and Santa Barbara County. It's really about almost halfway between LA and San Francisco. If you see little Point Conception that sticks out like a little arrow, on the coast of California, well, boom, lo and behold, we would be right in the middle of that little elbow of Point Conception. So next time you see Point Conception, you can put your finger right in the middle of that little elbow that sticks out of California, and you'll know that your finger is covering Chanda and I on a map, unless we're out of 2020. And I'm vaccinated and I'm out in the world. And if you guys didn't know, I mean, traditionally before COVID, I was traveling 200 to 250 days a year, doing 30 states a year, sometimes up to 100 different markets a year. So this is a real change for me. I've developed roots. Chanda, my love, how is having a regular schedule changed me as a human being?
Very good for ADD folks and type 1 diabetics. Nice routine. Things are steady. Blood sugar is steady. We like that.
Like I did check with some folks, and I am going to, speaking of AVAs, and considering these are some of my favorite people in the world that have come on to spend a little bit of time with us. I was going to mention that there is going to be a 7th AVA in Santa Barbara County. We just received word from the Trade and Taxation Bureau that you have basically been set up. We have basically been set up to be a final ruling for a new American viticultural area in Santa Barbara County called Alisos Canyon. Alisos Canyon AVA will likely be published either this Monday or next Monday in the Federal Register. So you heard it here first, I guarantee, because this has not been publicized whatsoever, and we're just friends here talking. So shh, obviously don't publish it if you can possibly do that. I guess I'm doing that now, but it's really, 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 really exciting. And Amy and Maxime are watching. Hello, and Intravino, and we've got Josh from San Diego. I hope you are well, Josh. I'm guessing Josh might be retired from the sheriff's department by now. Yeah, so I mean, he might. And we've got LOS disc golf, and you know how I feel about disc golf. So yes, another one under the belt. Yes, so that'll be my 4th AVA that I have researched and petitioned, and that have been accepted. And now, boom, it looks like we're going to get Alisos Canyon AVA. What is it? Well, I don't know. It is plugged in and the battery's going, right? Yeah, you know, one thing I might do is we'll keep an eye on it. I think it'll be just fine. One of my phones is playing up because we're going back to an old setup where I have multiple cameras, multiple screens. So Alisos Canyon is really, there's one vineyard that is pretty close to world famous called the Thompson Vineyard. It's an own-rooted, mostly Syrah vineyard that produces some of the best Rhone varietal wines anywhere in Santa Barbara County. And that Thompson Vineyard has now been renamed by Noah and Tamara Rolls, who own the property, as Dovecote. So Dovecote now is the central vineyard within the Alisos Canyon AVA. Well, I keep saying Los because I want to say Los Alamos, because there's been started and stopped this process of trying to make Los Alamos its own AVA. No one is really that into it. So I got hired to make a little micro AVA in an unincorporated, un-AVA'd region of Santa Barbara County. So it is between the no man's land, between sort of Santa Rita Hills and sort of the edge of the greater sort of San Ynez Valley AVA, 1983, and the as well as Santa Maria Valley AVA, second AVA in the United States, 1981. Third AVA in the United States, second AVA in California behind Napa Valley. So kind of a brand new region. So will there eventually be Los Alamos as a larger AVA that will surround it? I've sort of made the micro AVA before I made the macro. So
or someone else.
Indeed. And yes, thank you, Josh. We are doing well, and I hope everything's great with you down in San Diego.
Question.
Why don't you read that question?
Oh, okay.
I'm going to play with this phone to make sure the battery is correct. It won't take long.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
I hope that didn't cut us off, but we'll see. Okay, settings.
Offer codes.
Yes.
Do you have offer codes?
Let's see, battery percentage, high brightness.
Jake Pard, Lake Kachuma, 18 holes today. That's amazing.
That's crazy good.
Amazing.
That is great. Okay. And I thought, oh, there it is, display and brightness. Auto lock.
How is your position with Jay Wilkes changing with Jonathan coming on board?
That's a good question. Of course, I just thought I got it right.
Oh.
Why? All right, my phone's acting up just a little bit, guys. I apologize here. Why don't you tell us?
They're looking right up your nose while you're.
I'll stand up so at least you can just look at the Jay Wilkes label.
Branding.
Okay. Night.
Dovecote has some of the coolest looking wine labels in the area. Oh, awesome! I have not seen one.
Okay. Auto lock, raised to wake.
Oh, just hole 18. Still, that's pretty cool.
There we go. All right. That, boy.
Is that gonna work?
I think it will.
All
right. I'm gonna put that down a little bit.
Yeah.
Look at us. We're back again. I apologize. My phone just started crapping out, and after I've taken it to task for a little bit, I think we're right back in there. So yes, fantastic. So I'm so glad. I'm glad that you're enjoying those Dovecote labels. I think really, I mean, the Thompson Vineyard really has been producing some of my favorite Syrahs anywhere here in Santa Barbara County for absolutely so long that, and I think Noah, being as intense as he is in his sort of keeping up that vineyard and his intensity and his love of what he's doing, and he was incredibly successful in tech, and I think he will make that transition, and I think you can expect those Dovecote wines to be extraordinary. Oh, Wine Militia's in the house. That's probably Lamar. Say hello to Lamar.
Hello, Lamar.
He's helping out. He's helping out with the vintners. He's part of a group that is helping us reach out and spend some money that the state of California gave a grant to Santa Barbara County to help encourage other people to come up and understand just what an incredibly beautiful and important little wine region we have out there. And Karen from DC, the Dead Lioness, is in the house. What's up, Lamar? It's good to see you. And like I said, looking at any time if we have any questions from anyone
about like anything.
Yes, we can talk about wine, we can talk about beer, we can talk about spirits.
We can talk about him.
We can talk about creative mythology. Talk about mythology, talk about dogs. We've done this before. We had some really good dog training questions. My wife has been training service dogs for what, 15 years?
No longer than that, but yeah, long enough.
Right on. And there was a question about my changing, and then we've got another question up here too. So the question is what's going to change in my role at Jay Wilkes with Jonathan Nagy coming on board. In our conversations with Jonathan and looking at what I do the best and what he does the best, we've made the decision that I am transitioning into consulting winemaker for the entire Miller Family Wine Company, which means I will have my hands in everything the same way I've had my hands in Jay Wilkes, which means I'm going to be kind of watching things come in, watching things ferment, watching things as they go, but most importantly, really working very, very diligently with our amazing winemaking staff at Miller Family to do all, the blending, to be part of the blending team, to be part of the team that sort of puts these wines together and dictates their style, their ripeness, their level of oak, their structure. So I think what you're going to find out is you're going to see Jonathan having a much more important role in the winemaking and decision-making and the winemaking of Jay Wilkes specifically. And you're going to see more of my influence throughout all of the all of the wines at the Miller Family Wine Company, which include Smashberry, Ballard Lane, Barrel Burner, and J. Wilkes. So when my boss told me about it, he called it a promotion. So let's just assume in the COVID world in 2020, let's look for the bright side, that I have been promoted to be the consulting winemaker for the entire Miller Family Wine Company, which is really fantastic. And obviously, my role's been changing as brand ambassador quite a bit by doing, Zoom, Loom, no doom, no gloom, just put me in the room. That's the way that we've been looking at it. So that's sort of, and Chef Avi's here. Avi, I hope everything is well. I think he's probably down in the South Bay area. Love those restaurants.
And Jim said he had a case of the Beckman 99 Syrah that was mostly Thompson.
Okay.
Yeah, the rest was Stoltman. That sounds.
Yeah, the Bedford Thompson.
Like my favorite.
Yeah, Bedford Thompson used to be the Syrah that kind of, to me, really represented that. But if you look at the guys who made some of the best wines from Thompson that I've tasted, you're looking at probably like Adam Tolmack, unbelievable, and Craig Jaffers. So I would say if you look at the Jaffers Thompson and Ojai Vineyard Thompson, those to me, besides the Dovecote and obviously now the estate wines, I think Joey Tensley had made some wines out of there as well.
I remember that.
I would guess maybe Bob Lindquist, there might have been a coupe. I don't know, but I know for a fact I would definitely put the Jaffers and Ojai Vineyard up there are my favorite expressions of Thompson for sure. The Grenache, but specifically the Syrah. The Syrah's old vine, own rooted, and there's just something special about own rooted stuff.
Don asks if it's necessary for screw cap wines to be cellared horizontally.
No, actually, wines under Stelvin are not, it's not necessary to keep them on their side. The only reason we keep wines on their side when we age them is to keep the cork wet. And regardless of what you've heard from these aluminum folks, a screw cap is a hermetic seal. They talk about different oxygen ingress. I don't know, but if you hold a screw cap bottle upside down, it doesn't seem to leak, which would make me think it's airtight.
Well, so is a cork.
Right. Cork only exchanges gases within the molecular structure of the cork. Cork is actually a hermetic seal. Yeah. No, unless the cork's leaking, no atmosphere from outside the bottle moves inside the bottle. That's impossible. But there's lots of spaces between the molecular structure of the cork where there's gas, and that gas can come in. So corks do have various levels of oxygen, which will give a little bit of oxygen ingress as things progress. So that screw cap question, I still think screw caps are the best ways to, 2,000 years we've been putting corks in wine. First use of cork was described in about 63 BCE in Athens, Greece. And the crazy thing is they put a waxed piece of string up and around the cork. So all you have to do is just put your hand around the string and go and pop the cork right out. So 2,000 years ago, corks didn't require a screw or a corkscrew. So what the hell? What have we done? To me, just crack and go. Also, opening a screw cap bottle of wine saves a bartender between 1 and 2 drinks on a busy night. Talk to a bartender about how excited they are to open up a cork bottle of wine during a busy shift, and they will tell you how much they love screw caps. And I just love the fact that screw caps just don't wreck wine the same way that natural cork can.
So will the Smashberry Rosé and or White be available in cans like the red? Yes,
we're doing a line extension, and we're doing some new product development, some NPD on the Smashberry brand. We've got, because Smashberry is really taking off nationwide, people are really loving the brand. So we are going to be making a Smashberry, a Chardonnay. We're going to definitely be making a Smashberry Cabernet Sauvignon. We're going to be making a Smashberry White blend, and we're going to keep the Rosé. And the idea is that probably the Chardonnay, the White blend might, one of those two are going to probably go into cans. The Rosé has to go into cans because that's really what's driving the can market right now. Is aromatic wines that are easy to bring to the, to the beach or whatever. But I can't wait. I think
that does sound fabulous.
Rosé and cans. I'm probably about to go get Chanda a Sophia Mini.
I don't know, dude. Migraine. I'm drinking electrolyte water.
Yes.
Because I am a responsible migrainer. Must hydrate.
Is that an actual proper noun? Migrainer?
Well, it's like with a U in it, like migrainer.
Oh, migraineur.
Well,
like a navigateur, but a migraineur. I love it. So we got Dead Linus. These are great questions. I love little wine, little mythology. So Dead Linus is talking a little bit about, she's a huge mythology fan. What's your favorite character from mythology? Oh, goodness. I think it was Lysaeus who refused the call. He was in Ovid's Metamorphosis, and he was the mayor of a town in Greece or in Rome. I think it was in Greece. And the Bacchantes all showed up and sang their song, Eleleus, Eleleus, come, now we drink. And when Bacchus and his priestesses show up and say it's time to drink, you don't have a choice. You go out and take care of business because Bacchus doesn't screw around. Interestingly enough, in Ovid's retelling of the story, Lysaeus, yes, I believe it's Lysaeus, he refuses to go drink with the Bacchantes and with Bacchus. And as a result, Bacchus gets really angry. Like, where's your mayor? Where's the who rules this town? Oh, he didn't want to come out and drink. And I believe he turns him into a wolf. And then I also think that maybe his kids or someone else got turned into animals that, like Lysaeus, then pursues and kills. So it's sort of like when you don't listen to the gods, when you don't drink because the gods tell you to drink, you could be turned into a wolf. And when you're turned into a wolf, you won't know what you're doing, and you might pursue and kill other things that have been turned into animals, like your family that have been turned in. Actually, now that I think of it, that was a very poor retelling of my favorite story. Here's another great one, and this was from the. This is really kind of gnarly, but what the hell? Let's have fun. This is from the Maori. And this was retold in, I think, in creative mythology from Joseph Campbell, the Masks of God series, and that back in a pre-westernized, a pre-white civilization, the Maori in New Zealand used to practice, not all the tribes, but some practiced a pretty crazy Maori. The Maori had a very unusual and slightly crazy coming of age ritual in which the boys before puberty, before the age of 13, would all be kept in the tent with their mothers. And their mothers would teach them about life until the moment where the tribe was going to basically circumcise all the young men of a certain age. So they would all basically these little kids, 12, 13 probably, were asleep in their mother's huts, and the men would dress up as demons. And the men would creep into the huts and take and snatch the kids away. And the kids had no damn clue this was going to happen. So it was pretty frightening, because tonight they were going to become men. So they were pulled out of their huts. They were brought to a huge fire where there was a very large lean-to set up. And this is more of a mythological story than a myth, because this actually happened, according to the Catholic missionaries that described this, that all the boys would basically be told the secrets of the tribe, told the secrets of Maori power and war, the fact that they were being taken away from their mothers, and they were never going to sleep in their mother's tents again. And tonight they become men. And so this is the story. They would line up in front of the lean-to. My guess, strongest boy would be first, and whoever was in the back of the line would probably be the weakest boy forced to the back. And then out of nowhere, from behind the fire, would come this beautiful young virgin woman, probably about their age, and she would be wearing feathers and looking like an angel. So they would be taken away by the demons, taught about what it means to be a man. Then this woman would come out in this angelic sort of costume, and then she would lay down in the lean-to, and one by one, the boys would supposedly lose their virginity and line up and actually have sex with this woman. It's going to get worse, because
Great.
Supposedly, according to the missionary, this was a great great honor to be chosen to be this woman. And
I'll pass.
I'm assuming someone had to tell her it was a great honor, because maybe she didn't know what was going on. But the last kid who's in there with the angel, without telling him what's going to happen, the elders of the tribe knock out the supports of the lean-to and crush them by the heavy logs above and the ground below. They crush them dead. Then they extract the dead bodies and they cook them and they eat them to celebrate to celebrate the union of flesh.
They eat them.
They eat them. They crush them in flagrante and eat them. Now, I will probably have to, thank you. That was the best answer ever. Also, like, Zeus was pretty cool. Zeus would, like show up as a rain of gold or a great bull. And he was pretty good at sneaking out of Hera's way and impregnating other goddesses and mortals. I do really like Greek and Roman mythology because they don't take their gods quite as seriously, and their gods are just as corrupt as we are. It seems like we think in Western civilization that God is somehow perfect, and then we read the Bible and we go, wait, if he's perfect, well, there's a lot of historical revisionism there, and I won't get into what is true and what's not true in referencing the Bible. But I will say the nice thing about Ovid, the nice thing about reading all of the stuff about Greek and Roman mythology is these are seriously flawed gods that have seriously flawed ways that we can watch almost like Shakespearean actors doing crazy stuff instead of us thinking we can relate to them because they're not perfect, they're not omniscient. Or omnipotent. So that's kind of cool. Yes, mythology. Obviously, I would love to bring back the Bacchic and the Dionysian mystery rituals, but I think I'd probably be arrested because there was a lot of opiates involved in those rituals. And I'm really strongly believing I don't want to take any opiates until I'm on my deathbed. I want that.
You had some when you broke your arm.
When I broke my arm, but it was Demerol, and it was, I think I don't know if it's probably the same receptors.
Basically, same. I mean,
this is what I tell myself so I don't take opiates. So
you don't need opiates, honey. You're not in pain.
No, I feel good.
Good for you. Jake was asking about you mentioned the connection between Rick Longoria and Andrei Telechev. So you want to hear more about that story? Sure.
So Andrei Telechev, Russian-born, Bordeaux-trained, godfather of California Cabernet Sauvignon. He made Cabernet for BV, Beaulieu Vineyards, I think for about 20 years, from probably late 50s, early 60s, up to probably late 70s, early 80s. Fired, according to Dan Berger, because he refused to not go into the vineyard and tell the vineyard managers their business. You got to do it. That's what the best winemakers in Santa Barbara, they all do that. I mean, I think about the guys who used to ride me at Club Pepe, Adam Tolmack, Ken Brown, Greg Brewer, just
makes better wine.
Yeah. It's a pain in my butt, but that's my job you like it when people give me crap?
No, I like it when things are, done better.
Right. So Telechev was basically the winemaker there and really taught Americans how to make Cabernet Sauvignon. I mean, really the Georges Latour wines early back then, some of the Barbera he was making, even some of the Pinot Noirs are still drinking well today. So Telechev, just know he is a god of Californian American wine. Now, his connection, he really has just two real connections, I would say, in the world of Santa Barbara wine. One of them isn't really that active anymore, and that was Tony Austin. I'll just say he was sort of what I would consider the Walter White of Santa Barbara County winemaking, and I'll leave it at that. You can look up Tony Austin, Santa Barbara wine, and find out how he got in trouble. But supposedly he's making wine up in Napa and doing very, very well, and I wish him all the best. So, and then Tony Austin worked a little with Telechev, I think at his time when he was playing around a little bit. I think he was also doing some winemaking at Firestone. And then also at Firestone, Rick Longoria got to meet and spend some time as well with Telechev and Rick Longoria. And of course, I've been working really hard to find a date that Rick can come on the show, because clearly we can't have a Legends of Santa Barbara County winemaking show without having Rick Longoria in for an hour. So we've already had Jim Clendenin. We've already had Ken Brown. We do have Bob Lindquist is confirmed for a week from right now. I will be at this very desk having a fabulous conversation about the sort of history of the Rhone Rangers and the history of Syrah and some of these wines in not only in Santa Barbara County, California, but also in the New World, where what is the current state of Rhone wines in California and Santa Barbara County? Because we've all been waiting for Syrah, Grenache, and Viognier, and all these things to sort of take off the way they should have. Maybe a little of their sort of patina was taken off by Sideways. I think they suffered a little bit like Merlot, but it's all well and good. So it's a fabulous thing, and I look forward to seeing Bob Lindquist next week. And then we have, speaking of mythology, Karen, we've got Arthur George, who just wrote a book, which might end up being sort of the seminal book that I'm going through and reading now on wine mythology. So we've got Lindquist, and then we've got Arthur George. We're talking about wine mythology in 2 weeks. And then in 3 weeks, I think I already have, I've got Tom Wark from the Fermentation Blog. So boom, I mean, just on Wednesday, we had Karen McNeil. Thank you all so much for hanging out. We had a great crowd there. And then we're going to have Bob Lindquist. Then we're going to have Arthur George. Then we're going to have Tom from the Fermentation Blog, which should be just amazing. And then I'm hoping maybe Rick after that. So a lot of good stuff. And that's sort of the short history of how Andrei Telechev sort of influenced Santa Barbara County winemaking, really through Tony Austin and Rick Longoria, and that's about it. Yeah. So let me check to see. Let's see if it sound cool. Love it. And if I'm also looking up, if anyone on Instagram, let's see. I've got another one. What's the least intuitive technique you learned about training dogs? All right, and then Chanda is having a quick conversation in back of me. She just has to get something done. I think it's one of her doctors. So before I answer the question about dog training, Amy sent one that says, what's the future of enotourism in California in my point of view? So first of all, we're talking about agritourism, which is incredibly popular in Europe and in other places that are much more reasonable about land use. For whatever reason, Santa Barbara County has been incredibly difficult to even hear us talking about, this type of tourism. I think it would make a lot of sense right now. I mean, talk about, what is the best way to like stay in your little family pod, stay away from other tourists, and have an opportunity to be someplace where you're safe. To me, a house on a farm is not a bad idea. And this idea that somehow that staying in a house on a farm is going to wreck the ability for other hotels to do their business is absolute nonsense. I know that some of the hotel people and motel people and lodging people kind of work against eco and enotourism. But if you want people to, first of all, the statistic that really hits me hard is that tasting rooms that have a winery and a vineyard attached sell 67% more wine than those that don't. So what does that mean? It means that people that go to farms feel connected to farms, and it becomes part of who they are. They see the chickens, they see the sheep, they see the vineyard. They might actually go out for a night of harvest. They might go out for a day of shoot positioning or leaf pulling, or maybe they'll hoe a row. And I'll tell you what, an hour into hoeing under vine rows, you kind of wonder what you would be doing without your fancy college degree, but it's always wonderful. But I do like the idea that there is a incredible capacity in California to recognize that letting people stay on farms is not going to negatively impact anything, except it's going to keep farmers to give farmers the opportunity. Now, we were talking about agritourism and enotourism. So what do you think about County of Santa Barbara, the state of California, making a law to allow people to stay at farms? Like, for instance, right now, it's illegal. I mean, you can Airbnb a house at a vineyard, but it's whether it's legal is still in a gray area. I mean, what could be the problem?
The horse barn,
where
my horse lives, it's a farm. They're farming horses, and they have a very large house that they Airbnb all the time. So that's a working farm with an Airbnb on it. Is that illegal?
Well, I don't think so, but I think what we need to do is open up the potential for there to be a law to say, if you have a working farm, there can't be any local statutes that keep you from inviting people onto your farm. I mean,
why would you not want people to learn about farms?
I mean, do you remember staying on the farm, the place we stayed in Italy? Like we heard them in the middle of the night. We were trying to figure out, like, were we being robbed? Because there was something really important going on. Turns out they found truffles. It was October. It was in the Longueuil. And we're like peeking our head out the window, and they're like downstairs looking like they had just found like a half a kilo of heroin. And basically they did. They found some Alba white truffles. And the next night, a little bit of butter pasta, a couple of little truffles. I will never forget that. I'll never forget that the name of the dog was Lucky. I'll never forget.
We weren't allowed to touch him because he didn't like people. He only liked truffles.
He only liked truffles. Don't screw with my dog, Lucky. Don't screw with Lucky. He was a good dog. Like, oh no. So I am all in on agritourism. If anyone out there needs someone to stand up in front of a group of people and make a passionate plea, because farmers have it too easy. Clearly, small farms in the United States are thriving. One more reason to actually keep a family farm working would be to allow family farmers to have people on their farm and to teach people about the wonders of agriculture. Children, the wonders of agriculture might make more sense in a post-COVID world. But again, on a farm with your family, no other people there besides maybe another house with some farming people. I think that would sound fantastic. We had a question about dogs. And I think I know the answer to it. I almost started. What is the least intuitive technique you have learned? What's the least intuitive technique you learned about training dogs? Least intuitive. So
I don't think
something that you would not have thought.
Anything about training dogs that is actually intuitive. People think it is.
Give an example of what we would think would be intuitive in dog training and why it would be a horrific idea.
Well, I mean, punishing a dog for doing something wrong. That's something that, has been done probably forever since dogs. But dogs don't have that type of understanding. The dog doesn't do a thing and get punished and go, uh-oh, I got punished for doing that thing. I better not do that thing anymore. They don't have that type of brain capacity. So they think, crap, I just got punished. I'm now terrified.
So it would be intuitive to rub the nose in the urine.
Sure. Terrible idea. They don't get it. They're like, why are you doing that? They don't know.
So
doesn't make sense.
What would be something that's not intuitive in dog training that you think would be helpful? I wouldn't say clicker training is intuitive, but it is amazing. You can clicker train like chickens, rabbits, any type of animal that like wants to eat a treat. Like you can reinforce all the fun little behaviors that you like, whether it's just manners or whether it's tricks or whether it's anything. You can get like, they use the whistles with the dolphins and things. You've seen what you can get them to do. Like you can get animals to do anything with clicker training, not intuitive. I remember we found out that they train some Air Force pilots with clicker training.
And golfers.
So
gymnasts.
How would that work?
Tag teaching. So when a animal, basically of any kind, when it does a thing and then afterwards you go, that was very good. You can go, okay, well, that was good. Okay, I'll try to remember to do that thing again. So for humans, obviously you can tell them that, so thumbs up. But the way to really cement an action, whether it's like a move, in a plane or a swing or a flip for gymnasts, is to zap the brain with a singular sound that you only hear when you've made the perfect move. So instead of having to think, oh, okay, I'll remember to do that again, it sort of like burns a little neural pathway of that movement that with repeated like clicks or whistle or whatever the sound is, with repeated sounds, you do it naturally instead of having to think about it.
Subconsciously instead of consciously.
Yeah. I would say that. Yeah.
And this is a perfect time to remind everyone that the Day Drinking with Wes Hagen and our special guest tonight that you guys all asked for, Chanda talking about dogs and everything else, and our open Q&A and hanging out tonight is brought to you by the Miller Family Wine Company and Jay Wilkes. So if you go over to no doubt, if you go to jwilkes.com or if you go to millerfamilywines.com or millerfamilywineclub.com, I've got some really cool news. We're going to be working on a new promotion for you guys to get you guys looking at the Miller Family Wine Club again, which is really great for folks that aren't going to the market very often, because it is a monthly subscription wine club for under like $30-some a month. You get 3 bottles of wine. This month, you even get a bottle of J. Wilkes wines. So you're basically getting like $80 value. So if you go over and check out millerfamilywines.com or millerfamilywineclub.com, I'll be telling you more about that and making sure at the beginning, at the end of each show, that we'll be talking a little bit about what we do here at Miller Family. So thank you, and I hope you're drinking something delicious. And as always, we always love to know what you guys are drinking. So if you want to tell me where you are and what you're drinking, that's always good. If you have a question, you can pause it. Oh, we got some real Q&As. I think that may have been.
I don't know what that is. That's not a good question. Just
cool.
And you guys, I don't mind questions about wheelchairs or disability. Also, like, you don't have to feel weird if you guys want to ask questions about that. That's totally cool.
When we go out and we do quite a few. If I'm doing a local restaurant, either a winemaker dinner or something else, and Chanda might be with me in her wheelchair. We always think it's a really, really good idea to talk to people in restaurants and in hospitality about how to handle folks that are disabled that might come in.
Any type of disability.
Yeah, in just a couple minutes, kind of, why don't you summarize kind of what you go through? Because it always seems like when she gives this speech, people are like, whoa, I had absolutely no idea.
Yeah, so I was legally disabled before the wheelchair, and I used a service dog for about, 10 years. So that was way back before everyone had a fake service dog. So I was dealing with a lot of access issues because people they really didn't know anything about service dogs like they do now. So that was difficult. Once I started using a wheelchair, it was a whole new thing. So I've got a wheelchair, so I need actual physical access and no barriers to get in places, which is very, very difficult. I know there's this thing called the ADA. It just celebrated its
30th
year. Yeah, you'd think, oh, there's a law, everything's cool. No, the law is not enforced. So what ends up happening is, so there's issues around that. So I go and I talk about the barriers, I talk about service dogs, I talk about how to interact with disabled people. And the reason I talk about how to interact with disabled people sounds like it should be like common sense, like it's a person, you act like they're a person. But it doesn't actually go like that. People kind of panic, whether it's someone who's blind or deaf or in a wheelchair or has some type of, walker or cane. A lot of times people don't quite know what to do when you come into their business, and what they tend to do is just freeze and do nothing. They'll ignore you, or they'll talk to the person that you're with instead of you. There's a lot of issues that can make people with disabilities extremely uncomfortable and to feel very unwelcome in the world. And that is something that just breaks my heart, that a lot of people are like, I'd rather not even deal with going out. I'll just stay home. I think probably a lot of you know what that feels like now after all this quarantine time. It's kind of like that, but it's for your entire life that you're disabled. You are not treated the same as normal people. So I like to go into businesses and hotels and restaurants and places and just try to give them really simple tips and tricks on exactly what to do so you don't get the freeze response. That's what I like to do. And I think it's really important.
If we had some folks out there that are in hospitality and they saw someone you know, in one sentence, a blind person or a deaf person or a person in a wheelchair, what would be the first thing you would tell them how to handle carefully and make that person feel welcome into their business?
Well, there's a couple things that are kind of all important. So there's not like one important thing. So one of the important things would be to speak directly to the person who's disabled. I don't care if they can't see you or can't hear you. Look them in the face, even if they can't see you. Trust me, they know if you're talking to them or to the person next to them. Talk to the disabled person. Even if there's an interpreter that's answering for them, doesn't matter. Talk to the disabled person. We all know how to communicate with other humans. Like, we can do it. So talk to us. You don't have to like ask my husband what I want to eat. Like, I can answer you. It's cool. The other thing is, don't ever touch or grab a disabled person or their devices. So don't touch a dog, don't touch a service dog, ever. Don't ever touch someone's wheelchair, and surely don't ever try to push them without their permission. If there's a person who's blind and you want to bring them to a table, don't grab them and drag them to the table. Do not touch us.
The magic question.
The magic question is, what can I do to help? And then you just calmly listen to the answer and try to follow.
That, I think, is and we had a really good, and Julie was brilliant, that education on disability etiquette is so important because most people just don't get it. It's interesting, actually, that what we find is the bigger and more corporate the business is, the better trained the employees are. The biggest problems we've had is mom and pop motels, mom and pop restaurants.
Especially with service dog access. The tiny places, oh, they don't know. They don't know. And I mean, I've had people scream at me in foreign languages. Like, it's horrifying. Like, horrifying.
No, that's absolutely correct. And then Julie was saying she took a deaf and interpreter etiquette training last week and wished I had it in grade school.
I wish everyone had it. I mean, okay, here's the one thing about the disability community. Okay, all of us with disabilities, with all kinds of disabilities. It's the largest minority group in the world. Anyone at any time can join the group. And
just drive stupid.
Yeah, and all humans will eventually join the group, unless you just drop dead. Then you'll skip that part, but I don't recommend that.
No.
So imagine that, largest minority group in the world. Any one of you can join it at any time, whether it's an illness or an injury. You never know. And yeah, it's pretty gnarly. Yeah, it's good to know because there's a lot of us.
Cool. We've got a couple people we're talking about. I know that Kristen Labonte is loving the Calypso Sour from Captain Fatty's Brewery in Goleta. I'm a big fan of that brewery as well. And I just finished my Anchor Steam. So at some point, I still got 15 minutes. I still got a little time. Let's go with Firestone Walker, Luponic Distortion. So this is a cool series that they are constantly changing. Every time you buy this beer, it's like different. And they use a different hop profile. And this one is talking about hints of peach, pear drop, and dragon fruits, which I would have definitely picked up in all of these because, as you could tell from my blind tasting experiment, I'm probably not as smart about aroma and flavor. God, it really is hoppy.
No.
Chanda's not a fan of hops.
No.
If she can see through a beer, she won't drink it. A light beer to Chanda is Guinness. It goes Guinness all the way up to like a triple stouts and barley wines. She's never met a beer dark enough.
Yeah.
For her.
I won't drink it if I can see through it.
Pretty much. That's pretty much the ruling. Cool. Well, I did see a couple other little kind of questions coming in.
Someone was asking how the grapes are doing this year.
Oh yeah. So we're probably about probably 50 to 60% verasion at Bien Nacido, which is about 5 miles from here. And so that'll mean that the grapes are going from kind of hard and green to soft and purple. So we're seeing, as you would drive by the vineyard, you would see lots of color, lots of pink, lots of purple, lots of green. So generally within about a week or two, when we hit about 90% veraison, probably in the middle of kind of in the next week or so, probably I would guess, we're probably going to get there. We'll probably go through and drop some fruit. So I like to drop fruit at 90% veraison. 90% veraison means that 10% of the fruit is lagging behind. So I would say I would rather make 10% less wine and the 90% of the wine that I do make to be absolutely perfectly sort of ripe throughout the vineyard, because once the last 10% colors up, you can never tell which of those clusters were lagging behind. So when 90% of the vineyard is totally uniform, I want to drop the other 10% off. As far as the year goes, like I said, it didn't hit 70 degrees today. It was 69 degrees. Tomorrow, high 66. Is that correct?
Yeah, something like that.
I heard, yeah.
Low 54.
I looked at the 7-day forecast and nothing over 73. So we have not yet gone over 80 degrees in July or August, which is a little unusual. I have to say our average temperature, high temperature in August is 74 degrees. You hear me say it almost every time I do a show because we live in one of the greatest climates in the history of the world, even though things have changed and we had a couple years, I would say 15, 16, and 17 got pretty hot. But we've gone back to sort of what I'm calling the new normal. Now, last three summers, we've been extraordinarily cool and our house hasn't even gone over like 72 degrees with no air conditioning. So boy, are we lucky. And I'll tell you what, this is true cool climate, Winkler region 1A, the coolest climate where wine grapes can be grown. I was also noticing, you might've seen at up in central Canada near the Arctic Circle, they broke a temperature record last week. We were actually cooler in Santa Maria than they were on the edge of the Arctic Circle that day.
So crazy.
How? It's called cold ocean spinning, sucking up calories. Basically, the Pacific Ocean and summer fight right over our heads. And Pinot Noir likes to think the fight is really about her, and it's actually true. Yeah, no, there was Julie saying she hasn't even seen the sun in 3 days in Lompoc, and this is August, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, you can say, I mean, there's lots of places that can probably say the same thing. I'm sure there's parts of Oregon, coastal Oregon, that might be having the same issue. And obviously San Francisco and what Mark Twain has said about the coldest winter he ever spent. So obviously there's a real magic that happens on the coast of California, and an incredible magic right here about on the 37th parallel, where basically we get this perfectly cool weather during July and August. Generally, our June gloom persists through August. And then around September 1st, everything changes and we start getting hot. So I would like to say one thing that's a great take-home message for anyone who's here to learn wine is that you can describe every single vintage in Santa Barbara County with this sentence: long, cool growing season punctuated by heat spikes in late summer and early fall. The way a vintage is defined in Santa Maria, Santa Rita Hills, not so much in Paso or Santa Ynez Valley, because it's hot most of the time, is that it's cool, cool, cool. And then depending when we get the heat spikes, I would rather have a little heat spike in July and then have a really nice cool August and then have little heat spikes in September. This is usually not what happens. What usually happens is somewhere around the early part of September, the rain comes in and everyone freaks out and starts picking before the rain, and they pick their grapes too early. And then the rain comes and it's a total bust. We get a 1/4 inch of rain. It knocks down the dust. It gets a tractor slide somewhere and someone freaks out. And then 3 days later, and it's always 3 days later, huge heat spike. And here comes 100 degrees and maybe a day, maybe 2 days. It's usually 2 or 3 days. Sometimes it lasts a week. In 2004, 2010, a very long heat spike, which really, really strongly influenced the vintage. If you want to taste how a long, cool growing season punctuated by that heat spike tastes, try to find a 2010 Santa Rita Hills Pinot Noir. Those wines are huge, dark, inky. It's not that the heat got them to get that color. The long, cool growing season got the color. And then, believe it or not, that heat spike came in October. We weren't even going to, didn't even know if we were going to get the stuff ripe. And then all of a sudden, October, 107 degrees for like 7 days. Started picking at night with lights. Fruit was coming in. I mean, the day before the heat spike, the fruit was 23.8 and almost ready. The day after, the first day of the heat spike, fruit was already at 25.5. We were getting between 1.5 and 2 bricks a day. So only 3 or 4 days into a 7-day heat spike, we had gone from 23 bricks to 28 bricks, which is going from it's not quite ripe to it's going from the like 13.5 potential alcohol to over 20% potential alcohol in like 3 days. Pinot Noir collapses in a heat spike. It really does not like it. Chardonnay sucks it up and says, I'll be all right. Give me some water. We'll ride this out. Pinot Noir seems to struggle. But once the heat spike is done, give the vines some water. They will recover. And sometimes you'll even see the sugar will go down a little bit. But you don't want to put too much water on the vine because that could dilute the flavors. And then one nice thing about a little bit of a heat spike is it will suck the cluster up a little bit, remove a little bit of the water, and give you a higher skin to juice ratio, which is going to give you dark, rich, ripe wine, if that's what you're shooting for. But for me, to make the perfect, elegant, balanced Pinot, I want a year like this, and I want there to be these little 85-degree days in September that fade very quickly with cold nights, so the vines recover. And boom, all of a sudden we're harvesting, and it's going to be 24.5 bricks. Full seed ripeness, full lignification of the stems. Everything's looking good. Long, cool, hang time equals flavor. Heat equals flash in the pan. Unbalanced wines that aren't quite perfect. So that's what we really want.
Stan is wondering if Bienicido is warmer than our house.
It is. I would say it's at least 5 degrees warmer. So clearly,
away from the ocean a little further.
And it's also up against the Tepisque Bench, those hills, those kind of mountains that you see as you drive north through Santa Maria. If you're driving north through Santa Maria, you look over the right, you can barely see Bienicido kind of over on the side. In that same way, the same way that Santa Barbara is 10 degrees warmer than it is here, that's because you've got basically the mountains and the hills, which form a bowl, which basically cause the heat to just rise, and it's basically keeps the warm air in place and doesn't give it a place for it to be blown away by the wind. And I would say that Bienicido is the same way. It's baking on the hill, which in some years is necessary to get the Syrah ripe, to get the Grenache ripe, to get the Viognier ripe. I think we have even a little Marsanne and Roussanne up there. Believe it or not, we still have some Merlot at Bienicido that we generally either make a rosé or sell it. I think at some point we should probably graft it. But we'll be seeing Pinot Blanc come in, Stan, probably in 2 weeks. So here we go. Get fired up. Game face. Do you believe it?
Nick says one of the hottest summers in New York.
Is it like the heat dome? Remember the heat dome a few years ago?
No.
Everyone was talking about the heat dome over the eastern United States. It lasted, I think that was 3 years ago. I think that was 2017 summer.
As long as it's not flat Earth or something cool.
Well, I'm sure Carl Sagan disproved flat Earth with a piece of cardboard in 1979, but that's Carl Sagan. We can't all be Carl Sagan. Hopefully some of the varieties you have planted, and if you don't know Nick, you don't watch the show, but Nick sent me all these delicious wines from his vineyard that he grows in Gardner, New York. And they are absolutely stunning wines. And I'm hoping that the heat doesn't push the ripeness to the point where he's picking too early, and that you have enough time to allow those vines and the fruits not burning. So that's all well and good. Is a heat spike like that how they get to an Amarone? No, not really, Julie. Amarone is actually made using the Posado style, which is they pick the grapes and then they put them on drying racks, and they basically make wine out of raisins. So the concentration and the flavor, that raisiny flavor that you get out of a good Amarone, is from a dehydration of the grapes post-harvest. So there's not a lot of grapes there's a couple things you can do with grapes after they're harvested. Of course, you can make wine right away, which is what I recommend. Get a vineyard that's great. Get some grapes that are in perfect ripeness. Get them to the vineyard. Get them to the winery, ice cold in the middle of the night. Nighttime winemaking is probably what made me a type 1 diabetic, but we won't go into that right now. Well, it could have been the.
It just made you have a terrible sleeping pattern.
Well,
ever since.
I read about my diabetes and it said it normally can occur when there's an insult to the body. So I don't know.
That was a very long-term insult, but that was also like 4 years ago since we've done that. So.
Yep. So let's just assume that didn't happen for liability purposes. But
still, no one should switch their schedule for no reason.
Right.
It's terrible for you.
But so you can make the grape, make it into wine right away, which is certainly what I would recommend. But you can also do other things like take all your grapes, put them into a large commercial freezer, freeze the grapes into little, perfect little ice cubes, little grape cubes, and then put them in a press. Hopefully they won't break your press, but press them, and you press syrup just the same way that if you freeze orange juice and scrape off the top, it's 4 times as sweet as the watery stuff on the bottom. That water freezes before sugar. So the disaccharide sugar is going to be concentrated. And as you press it, the action of the press may actually have an impact on what is going on.
Oh, I think it's been an hour.
Yes, we lost IG, but that's just fine. We're just about here. We'll answer a couple more questions and we'll finish up. But what I would say is at that point, you would freeze the grapes, press the syrup, and try to ferment the syrup into a dessert wine or an ice wine. But that would be an artificial ice wine. But as a human being, I can't tell if nature froze the grapes or if technology froze the grapes. So that's all well and good. And then, of course, you can also use the Passato method for Amarone or other types of wine in that sense that you would put the grapes out, let them dehydrate. Sugar, of course, is going to go from 22, 23, all the way to 30, 35. And then you're going to probably keep the wine a little bit sweet because you're going to have a little bit of extra residual sugar.
So Nick was curious how we irrigate.
Oh, we do. 5 gallons a week.
How?
Drip emitter, pressure compensating drip emitters from Israel are what I would recommend. Netafim. Netafim is a company that makes the best drip emitters in the world. They don't pay me to say that, but they should. Considering how many.
Not spons.
30 grand. I've probably bought 30,000 of these drip emitters over my life. So you can be a half a gallon with 2 liters per gallon, 4 liters per gallon. What I like, Nick, is I like pressure compensating drip emitters. And this is why. They figured out in Israel, because they're freaking brilliant, how to make a drip emitter that would apply the exact same amount of water at 25 PSI and 85 PSI. And why would they do that? Because a lot of vineyard rows are a hill. So at the top of the hill, you're going to have maybe 20, 25 PSI. At the very bottom of the hill, you're going to have triple that, 75 PSI. So if you just use a regular drip emitter, you're dripping. If you put a bucket under the bottom dripper and a bucket over the top, you'll get a gallon in an hour on the top and 5 gallons on the bottom. So this pressure compensating drip emitter, which forces the water through what they call a tortuous path, equalizes the pressure and gives exactly 2 liters, 3 liters, 4 liters, 5 liters, 6 liters per drip. And I like to put those drip emitters not under the vine, but in between the vines. And I'll give you even a better idea in a second. And that is, so when the drips are happening, if you have 4 feet between your vines, the drip is happening 2 feet right in between the vine. So instead of the vine becoming very, very lazy and just putting a root ball right under the drip emitter just to absorb the water, it's going to have to at least force out 2 different ways to basically, look for water in between it and the next vine in 2 different areas. If you really, really want to be cool, you could even put 2 drip lines per row and put a drip emitter in between the vine, and then on the other one in between the next 2 vines, and then switch for the next 2 vines. So when you apply the water, it's like CrossFit. The vine has no freaking clue where the water is going to come from. You can give the water to the right side of the vine 2 times that week, and then all of a sudden switch it up and give it to the left side of the vine. So the vine, because the vine, it is twice as expensive, but it will teach the vine that it never knows where the water is coming from. So it won't get lazy and just put one big root ball down. So drip emitters, we have sandy soil, so we have to apply 2, 3 times as much water just to get enough water down there. I would say in my general rule of thumb, in sandy soils, in warm temperatures in summer, when the vine still needs water, I would say average of 5 gallons per plant seems to be a pretty good way to go. Cool. Well, let's, 2010, Jim Ashelman was saying that he likes the 2010 Santa Rita Hills Pinot Noir. They were
2008 even better.
2008 was a kind of a S show. It was tough. It was the hardest year to make wine I've ever had. It was so bad it almost drove me back to teach high school again. Can you imagine? 2010 Santa Rita Hills, they are rich, ripe, and slutty. They offer pleasure with no restraint or no attempt to restrain themselves. These are amazingly rich, ripe wines. A little higher in the alcohol, but man, they're definitely Parker style. And they definitely I remember apologizing for them when I first poured them at an event the first time they came out because they were so rich and ripe. I'd say stuff like, this is not the style of wine that I make, but there's a line 3 miles long waiting for this one. I wonder why. I was apologizing about it, but I've never got more people. That wine sold out faster than any wine I ever sold out. And it got the highest score in the Spectator and in Parker. So ripeness and overt ripeness and ripe style, it really is quite a, it's hard to ignore in a wine market that really loves it. It's sort of like, making very reasonable, safe sports cars. Reasonable, safe supercars don't sell like sports cars where you can go, 300 kilometers per hour and kill yourself. And perhaps people like a little danger, people like a little sexiness, people like a little richness, people like, but those are great cocktail wines, but I just find they don't match beautifully with food. And speaking of food, quick plug, Chef Rick's in Orchid, one of my favorite restaurants, will be delivering us some delicious food anytime. So we're going to enjoy the rest of our Friday night. We get takeout on Friday nights and Sunday nights, and it's very exciting to me because I don't have to cook. But I just invented these really good black bean and pepper jack enchiladas, which
so good.
We'll be making them, I think, at least every week. It's nice.
I've eaten some of those today.
I can make a pan of enchiladas in 20 minutes, and they can last a good long time. So I hope all of you guys had a wonderful time hanging out with us tonight. If you have any other questions, yes, people like to talk, as Nick says. People like to talk dry and buy sweet. And remember, alcohol has sweetness, and that's one reason why high alcohol wines tend to be loved as well, is because they do have a little sweetness and richness to them as well. As I always say, find someone in your family, find someone in your neighborhood, find someone maybe peripherally that may need some help, reach out and see what you can do to help them. There's always going to be someone, and we're in the middle of this. You might think that everyone's doing well enough, but I just had a situation just last week where someone showed up at my doorstep in a really, really bad place, and don't normally let people in, but fortunately he is one of my good friends, and had a lovely long conversation and got him back to hopefully a better place. So make sure to check in with as many people as you can, because I think we all feel good when we get a text that doesn't require us to respond, but at least asks us, hey, if you need to talk to someone, I'm here for you. So do everything you can to be a good person, to be a humanist, trust science, wear a mask, be careful out there. And let's get out the other side and hang out as soon as we're immunized and happy and safe. Really looking forward to getting back to all these places. And Karen said that DC is an amazingly wheelchair friendly place.
God, I still want to go there. I've never been.
Not even in like 4th grade when everybody else went?
I barely even went to school. I was a very sick child.
What did Bob Marley say? Education?
We
don't need no.
If I was educated,
no.
We need no education. If I was educated, I'd be a damn fool.
I think he included education. No, we need inspiration. If I was educated, I'd be a damn fool.
Yeah. Okay.
Somewhere between that and being heavily educated is a beautiful thing. So, if you're a reggae artist, you don't have to go to college, I guess. And if you're not a reggae artist, you don't have to go to college either. But unless you want to, but just learn to jam that.
I went to college.
Jam those bongos.
For very long.
Right on, guys. I hope you guys all have a fantastic weekend. We will see you again on Monday. I don't have my list and my subject matter in front of me, unless this just happens to be it. Nope, it's not. I will put up what our subject is probably Monday morning after I get a nice, lovely, relaxing weekend. And remember, over the weekend, you guys are on independent study for day drinking. I expect you guys to excel. And before you know it, we'll be back together again. So thanks everyone for hanging out. Don't forget, program is brought to you by J. Wilkes Wines and the Miller Family Wine Company. Go over and check out jwilkes.com, millerfamilywines.com, and millerfamilywineclub.com. See if it makes sense for you. And if you're at least drinking 3 bottles of wine every month, I think you'd be stoked to have these wines appear on your door as if by magic. And they're a great value and a great deal. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you guys all Monday. Thanks again for hanging out. See ya.